Proverbs 5. My son, attend unto my wisdom, and bow thine ear to my understanding, that thou mayest regard discretion, and that thy lips may keep knowledge. For the lips of a strange woman drop as an honeycomb, and her mouth is smoother than oil. But her end is bitter as wormwood, sharp as a two-edged sword. Her feet go down to death, her steps take hold on hell. Lest thou shouldst ponder the path of life, her ways are movable, that thou canst not know them. Hear me now, therefore, O ye children, and depart not from the words of my mouth. Remove thy way far from her, and come not nigh the door of her house, lest thou give thine honour unto others, and thy years unto the cruel. Lest strangers be filled with thy wealth, and thy labours be in the house of a stranger, and thou mourn at the last, when thy flesh and thy body are consumed, and say, How have I hated instruction, and my heart despised reproof, and have not obeyed the voice of my teachers, nor inclined mine ear to them that instructed me. I was almost in all evil in the midst of the congregation and assembly. Drink waters out of thine own cistern, and running waters out of thine own well. Let thy fountains be dispersed abroad, and rivers of waters in the streets. Let them be only thine own, and not strangers with thee. Let thy fountain be blessed, and rejoice with the wife of thy youth. Let her be as the loving hind, and pleasant roe. Let her breasts satisfy thee at all times, and be thou ravished always with her love. And why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman, and embrace the bosom of a stranger? For the ways of man are before the eyes of the Lord, and he pondereth all his goings. His own iniquities shall take the wicked himself, and he shall be holden with the cords of his sins. He shall die without instruction, and in the greatness of his folly he shall go astray.
Wow, pretty powerful message. Good evening. It's September 16th. It is a Tuesday, 2014. This is your host, Mike Callahan, and welcome to the Watchman News. I am sorry about last night. I had a very unexpected interruption that caused me not to be able to do the show. In the future, there may be some days where I may have to actually just upload a recorded show at 7 p.m. And if that's the case, that's fine. I'll still do an hour show, and it will just be pre-recorded. But it will be it'll be the same as this, except for when I actually do the show, it won't be live on Google Hangouts. But that's not going to be every day, so it's nothing to be very concerned with. And anyway, as always, I guess we'll get started out with the suspicious observers and then go from there. Let's see here. Had a very good weekend last weekend. Had nothing to do with my absence yesterday. Okay, here's some suspicious observers. Enjoy.
Good morning, folks. My name is Ben Davidson, and that is Michael Steinbacher. Michael is a pillar of electric geology and one of the inspirations for our electric land formation experiments performed by Billy Yelverton. I'll be exploring the Oregon mountains with him for the next few days, and you might consider heading to his website for some background. The link is found right below the video. Right to space weather. Bartol shows cosmic rays on a slight uptick, both in neutrons and muons. Looking at the solar wind, we had yet another round of that proton bunching as the speed slows down, seen it quite a bit, with a nice 360 pulled by the phi, again at 2100 UTC, matching yet another round of spikes in the low energy protons and a bit in the high energy protons. I guess they like that time of day. Solar flaring is heading downward. Our top eruption threat has become filamentary. Here's a big one arriving on the southeastern limb now. She takes the cake, because the sunspots will trough today as the big groups depart the disk. That's a minor quake factor, adding to the current elevated earthquake warning based mostly on this coronal hold down south. Bit of good news. This watch period is indeed hitting, but doing so is one of our unusual location upticks rather than extreme magnitude. Always love seeing that. Anything above 4.0 in the Caribbean is above average. 5-pointers are extremely rare. Rare doesn't even begin to describe yesterday's Sweden quake, the third largest in 40 years, and you need to go back 28 years before you find a rumble of this size in this country. How's that for unusual location uptick? Probably our rarest quake of the entire year. Bit of a USGS downgrade fest as well, with multiple tremors registering magnitude 6 over the last couple hours, but all listed in 5 range on the official list. Earthspot seismicity is up as well. As the typhoon crossed the Philippines yesterday, we took a 5-pointer just to the south, and a volcano began surging magma towards the surface, and tens of thousands of people are being frantically evacuated. We've also got an unusual swarm developing right beneath Hurricane Odile, which we'll come back to momentarily. First, let's look at some images of the firefight going on out west. The heat and drought in this area are not helping. Great article out from Rosetta. They've picked their landing site, and it's almost showtime there. Back to Hurricane Odile. This is the scene in Baja. Complete chaos as the hurricane goes overhead. Now, unfortunately, the drought and fire zones won't enjoy any of this rain when it comes north, but indeed, Arizona and New Mexico will. 2 nights ago, we had a flood warning for those states, and it appears that the storm is coming right over top their heads. The event will last multiple days, I'm afraid, and today's major flood warning from NOAA is just there. Best of luck. Europe watching those systems build in the south. Not much has changed. Just be wary of local forecasts, as there are about 4 or 5 active areas constantly shifting around. We got a moisture flow building from northeast Australia and a low over top most of New Zealand. There's your 2 watch zones for the next day. Got some shots of our star to close. It's 6 a.m. Eastern Time, 3 a.m. here out west. That's the news. Eyes open. No fear. Be safe, everyone.
And thanks to Ben Davidson for his wonderful work. And I'm going to go ahead and do the news story first that I have for you, because it directly relates to the weather. And it's really a shame that the mainstream science and stuff like that is still not making the connection known to just everybody in general between how much control of the weather the sun has, the effect on earthquakes and volcanoes and of the such. It's just a shame that they are hiding it just so they can further their own agenda with climate change. And I mean, they're not calling it global warming anymore, at least, but still, that's kind of the deal. That's what's going on there. So let's go ahead and get on to that story. As I've been telling you, it's climate change. It's not just a matter of hotter summers, or, it's climate change. We're going to have extremes in both directions for a little while. But overall, there are several people that suspect it's going to get rather cold, and it probably will. Fall chill brings first frost, freeze, and record cold temperatures. This was published on September 13th. These are stories that I was going to do yesterday, and I didn't get a chance to. I think I got one or two from today as well to do tonight. Anyway, this season's first frost and freeze was seen for parts of the Rockies, Plains, Northwest, and Upper Midwest this week. Numerous record lows and record cold daytime highs were set as well. In addition to this frost and freeze threat, snow-blanketed parts of the Rockies and High Plains setting records in some locations. Let's break down the details, starting with forecast lows. A frosty start to Saturday was found for many in the Rockies, Plains, and Upper Midwest as the fall air invaded the U.S. behind a strong cold front. In fact, temperatures well below freezing were recorded in parts of the northern Rockies beginning midweek. Casper, Wyoming sank to 30 degrees at 6 p.m. Thursday, only fifth time in the city's reached 30 degrees or colder before September 11th in 74 years of records. Lows Friday morning dipped to the teens and 20s in the northern Rockies. Sheridan, Wyoming dipped to 18 degrees, crushing its previous daily record of 30 degrees. Miles City, 29 degrees, and Billings, Montana, 30 degrees, tied their daily record lows. Friday morning, Missoula, Montana, 25 degrees, Casper, Wyoming, 26 degrees, and Rapid City, South Dakota, 29 degrees, also set daily records. It's about 2 to 3 weeks early for temperatures to drop to 32 degrees or below in Billings, Montana. Average date is October 3rd. In Rapid City, South Dakota, average date is September 27th. Record lows were tied as far east as Chicago, 44 degrees, and set as far south as Kansas City, 42 degrees, on Friday as well. Frost advisories and freeze warnings were in effect as far west as northeastern Washington and continue in parts of the Plains and Upper Midwest through Saturday morning. Record lows were also broken on Saturday morning from International Falls, Minnesota at 25 degrees to Austin, Texas at 60 degrees, Kansas City, Missouri 37 degrees, and Dodge City, Kansas 35 degrees. Both broke records set way back in 1890. The cold air started spilling over the international border from western Canada into northern Montana around Cut Bank back on Monday. Wow. Try saying that 3 times fast. Daily record cool high temperatures were set in many locations, including Cut Bank on Tuesday, 39, and Wednesday, 36, and in Rapid City, South Dakota, 45 on Wednesday. Roughly 3 dozen locations set daily record cool highs Thursday from the northern Rockies to the Great Lakes. Milwaukee, Wisconsin only managed to warm to 51 degrees Thursday, their coolest daily high so early in the season. And you can go on the links down there. You can go on and see the rest of this. But it's rather interesting how we are actually starting to see it happen so quick. And they're going to blame something for increasing food prices and stuff, and they're going to blame the crazy weather, and it's all to further their agenda. I really don't. It's awful cruel to raise food prices on people, especially when the economy is not doing very well, and especially considering it's not because of lack of food on the earth. It's because of an agenda. It's not even necessarily greedy people. It's an agenda. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. There's so many things going on. So many things going on right now. Anyway, let's move on to the deal with U.S. and Syria. This is a story that I caught today. U.S. Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel says the U.S. Central Command has a plan to take targeted actions against ISIS safe havens in Syria, including striking infrastructure. Hagel also unveiled a plan to boost Iraqi forces by 1,600 U.S. military advisors. That's what they're calling them this time around, military advisors. The U.S. will also train and equip 5,000 members of the Syrian opposition to fight the militants from the Islamic State group, previously known as ISIS and ISIL. However, Hagel said this number will not be enough to turn the tide at this stage and might be boosted later. The plan to strike Syria was confirmed by General Martin Dempsey, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Now remember, there was no boots on the ground. We will not be putting no boots in the ground, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you remember that? I remember that. No, it's okay. They're military advisors. See, they're not combat. They're not going to fight. They're just going to stand around and point and tell them how to pull a trigger and... military advisors. They need 1,600 teachers, and they need more teachers later. Okay, that's what they're saying. Let's not mince words here. That's what they're saying. Because military advisors, that don't sound like you would be in combat at all, now would it? Or I mean, if you'd be in combat, you would just be in a command kind of role or position. The 1,600 military advisors. Well, we will be prepared to strike ISIL targets in Syria that degrade ISIL's capabilities, General Dempsey said during Wednesday's hearing before the Senate Armed Services Committee. Washington will not look to unleash a shock and awe campaign on the of airstrikes in Syria against Islamic State fighters, but however, noted, whether it be a persistent and sustainable campaign. Hagel has ruled out putting any troops on the ground for the moment, except for when those advisors step foot there, but did say that some of the 1,600 American military advisors deployed in Iraq since June may get involved in a direct fight with the ISIS. Just said it there. American forces will not have a combat mission, Hagel said. The troops deployed will support Iraqi and Kurdish forces. Yeah. According to General Dempsey, those troops who are on the ground in Iraq could take a more active role in certain missions, such as retaking Mosul. U.S. forces will operate from the capital Baghdad and Kurdistan's Erbil. Kurdish forces are to join the fight and work to retain the territory taken back from the ISIS militants. The Obama administration will also try to push a bill through Congress to authorize the spending of $500 million to help train and equip the Syrian opposition. Now, if I'm not mistaken, these are the same type of excuses for the start of Al-Qaeda, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS and ISIL and, the Taliban. That's who I was thinking of. So now it's going to be like today they're called the Syrian opposition, right? So we're going to give them guns and training and all these weapons and all this cool stuff. And then like in a month we're going to be calling them, I don't know, ISIM? I don't know. I'm running out of acronyms here. I'm sure they can come up with plenty. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much all that's going on. A member of the House of Representatives, Walter Jones, a North Carolina Republican, says he will vote against the plan to arm the Syrian rebels, though he expects the bill to be passed regardless. Here we go again. We train the Syrians today who are supposed to be our friends, but tomorrow they're our enemies, Jones said. We need to let these other countries take care of their own region. More than 30 countries have agreed to join the U.S. coalition in their fight against the Islamic State, the Pentagon reported. However, there is no sign of regional powers, Iran and Syria, on the list. America reiterated that there will be no cooperation with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's government in any way in its fight with the Islamic State. Obama's position has long been that he would like to see Assad leave power, particularly after he was alleged to have used chemical weapons against his own people last year. The Syrian president was briefed by an Iraqi national security advisor on Tuesday to put Assad in the picture of the latest developments in Iraq and the efforts that the Iraqi government and people are making to combat the terrorists, the Syrian state news agency reported. So, that's the long and short of it. We're putting boots on the ground. A rose is a rose by any other name. we just need to admit, yeah, that's what we're doing. We're putting boots on the ground. We're going over there. We're gonna. This is another war. Although we're gonna call it Operation. I don't know. They'll come up with a good name for that too. So that's what's up. I figured this is what was going to happen from the very beginning of this. The moment I heard, that they were in Syria, I knew that was going to be our government's excuse. I mean, we do that now. We just like go into countries and, whatever. I don't understand. On the other side of things, though, anonymous hacker group goes after ISIS, but the implications could be costly. Shadowy hacktivist group Anonymous recently claimed responsibility for hacking the city of Ferguson, Missouri's computers and releasing personal information about police officers, resulting in threats of violence against them. The group takes credit for the hacktivism, which helped solve the notorious Steubenville rape case. The nearly invisible, loosely associated group of hackers also has launched cyber attacks against the Vatican, Egypt, and North Korea. The group updates its list of hacks on Wikipedia. Now it's turning its sights on ISIS, a campaign called OpNoISIS. OpNoISIS. Had to look at that twice. Forbes magazine announced the start of the effort in June. An anonymous source quoted by the magazine claimed that since the hackers can't get ISIS targets directly, they'll attack countries which support it. We plan on sending a straightforward message to Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and all other countries that evidently supply ISIS for their own gain, the source said. In the next few days, we will begin defacing the government websites of these countries so that they understand this message clearly. Because of the extensive web of anonymous accounts on Twitter and the fact that ISIS usually hacked into one of the anonymous Twitter accounts recently, it's difficult to determine who the real members are. But to the extent that these are legitimate, it appears the group is ramping up the threats. Bavado, a semantic security expert, told Forbes that it is probably the case, but the issue is whether ISIS and its possible ally, a jihad hacktivist group known as the Syrian Electronic Army, will strike back, as Forbes notes. Now wait a minute. So ISIS is buddies with the Syrian Electronic Army. Huh. Okay. Perhaps the most dangerous effect on any anonymous campaign will be the inevitable reprisal. So far, ISIS supporters have largely shunned online attacks, but this could easily change. If the anonymous claims of a link-up between the Syrian Electronic Army and ISIS are to be believed, the damage they could wreak on Western targets could be much more than simply symbolic. Let's not forget that one false tweet from an AP account wiped more than $90 billion from the U.S. stock market. Provoke ISIS digital supporters and they will strike back, possibly bringing the fight to America without a single shot being fired. And Anonymous has already launched cyber attacks against Turkey several times in the past, and in fact, several of its hackers were arrested by the Turkish government. It has hit cyber targets in Saudi Arabia in the past as well. Those countries, as well as the United Arab Emirates and Qatar, have all invested in cybersecurity in response to the real and threatened attacks on those countries' cyber infrastructure. So there you have it. We'll see what happens. That was posted yesterday, that article about Anonymous. So we'll see. There were some things that I questioned when I seen that supposedly Anonymous was in support of, but I'm not quite so sure, to be honest. That was the body camera issue in Ferguson and all that. I don't know. Can't see Anonymous being in support of the body cameras. Anyway, let's go on to an incident in Missouri, which is kind of shocking, to put it lightly. Missouri teen in critical condition after cops assault and tase him. So, let's it's kind of a small video. I can't do nothing about that. I apologize, but let's go ahead and have a look.
I watched him die over there. This video was taken from an eyewitness today as police tased a 17-year-old who family members say is now in critical condition. Police say an officer pulled the teen over for a minor traffic warrant. Police say the teen resisted arrest and the officer was forced to tase him.
Several eyewitnesses are telling Fox 4 a very different story. Fox 4's Megan Briley is live in that Independence neighborhood where witnesses showed her some amateur video of the incident.
Mary, it started as a routine stop as the teen was pulled over right behind me, but witnesses say it ended with the teen being pulled from his car onto the sidewalk by the officer.
I thought he just shot him.
Michelle Baker quickly grabbed her phone as she heard screams coming from the street. Baker and other witnesses say they saw the officer tase the teen inside this car. In this cell phone video, you can see the officer dragging the teen's body to the sidewalk, then standing with his foot on the teen's back.
You could tell that the kid was like going into convulsions. But he turned him over and his head was like dangling like this and he had blood coming out.
He was just like on the ground like twitching.
17-year-old Curtis Martis says the teen was coming over to play Xbox with him. When he heard his car pull up, he went to the porch to see a cop parked at the curb too. Police say the officer walked up to the car's passenger window and asked the teen to roll it down.
And I hear him say from my porch, he's like, I can't roll down my window, it's broke.
The officer then walked to the driver's side and asked the teen to get out of the car. Martis says the teen started recording on his phone.
He was like, what am I being arrested for? And the cop just grabbed him and said, you're under arrest.
Police say a struggle began and the officer warned the teen several times he would tase him.
There was a wrestling match behind the vehicle where he resisted.
But Martis and two additional witnesses say there wasn't much of a struggle. They say the officer tased the teen, then pulled him out of the car.
He like threw him on the ground, busted his face up, and then he kept like nudging him with his foot.
5 minutes go by in this video, all while witnesses say the teen was not breathing.
You could see blood coming out of his mouth.
I just spoke with Martis. He is at the hospital with the family. He tells me the teen has swelling in his and is in critical condition. That video you saw will be used for this investigation. Megan Briley, Fox 4 News, working for you live in Independence.
All right, thank you, Megan.
Kind of ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, and this is story after story after story after story. I urge you to join Facebook pages like Cop Block and stuff like that, and you will see these stories. Every single day I could be posting probably a couple of different stories of this police brutality that's going on. It is rampant. It is really, really rampant. And of course, you know, you only hear about particular incidents that happen, and always when somebody absolutely dies, when there's enough witnesses, and when people raise entirely a lot of hell over it, then you will finally hear it hit maybe some other local news channels, but to get national, it's only once in a while. Like Ferguson, you know, you only see these stories come out like that once in a great while, but it's happening all the time. It's pretty crazy out there. So I mentioned Mike Brown. Grand jury decision into Brown shooting may be months away. And I believe there's a video on that. So it seems to me like they're just kind of dragging along and prolonging this out. And I don't know.
But first happening today, peaceful protesters asking for justice in the Mike Brown case are expected at tonight's St. Louis County Council meeting.
Yeah, they'll gather a day after learning it could take the grand jury until January to decide whether or not to indict Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson in Brown's shooting death. News 4's Mike Colombo is live for us this morning with the new information. Mike.
Yeah, Andre, as much as the community and the world for that matter want fast answers in this case, the St. Louis County Prosecutor's Office continues to say that the grand jury will get as much time and information as needed to make a possible decision. The one thing that they're really going to want to hear is from Officer Darren Wilson, and as we learned and reported yesterday, Officer Wilson has been asked to testify before the grand jury. Right now, though, prosecutors are waiting to see if Wilson accepts the invitation. In the meantime, more than 5 weeks have passed since Mike Brown's shooting death, and neither county police or the FBI have completed their respective criminal investigations. We've also learned the grand jury is now devoting its full time to the Mike Brown case. Its decision on whether or not to charge Officer Wilson won't come until the police investigations are completed. So not a whole lot has changed, but we are getting more information. No doubt what will happen with this case hinges on what that grand jury decides, and that is what we will be following closely over the next several days, weeks, and possibly months. Claire, Andre, back to you.
So we'll see. We'll see what the grand jury has to say when they make their decision and go from there. Obviously, it's going to take some time. They're not expecting anything too soon as far as that decision. I think there's some key pieces of evidence that are very important. However, it may be, and I don't know. Again, I wasn't there, but I'm starting to gather that there were multiple officers at the scene. I mean, like really quick when he went down. It almost sounds like from a couple different stories that I've heard. I've actually heard there were two bursts of shots, and what I've heard, and again I don't know, but there were two bursts of shots, and what I heard is that this Darren Wilson or whatever shot the first round, and I believe what I heard was there was a second officer that fired the second burst of rounds, and possibly a third, I don't know. From what I understand, there were three officers there real quick. I mean, like really, really quick. So I don't know if that's true or not. I have no idea. There's all kinds of different conflicting reports. You got to wait until they all come out and then, try to piece the truth together more or less. So that is an update on the Ferguson news. Now we get to a little bit of crazy stuff. And people thought I was crazy. The next two stories are a little bizarre, and I've been wanting to point, well, I've been telling people for the last few years to just look for a bunch of crazy stuff to go on. People just flipping and doing really, really wild stuff. And I know people have been doing bizarre things for a long, long time. But there are some things that just really take precedent to the weird category. This is one of those stories. Police, Indiana man mutilated 8 girlfriend's body. Wow. Police in southeastern Indiana say they believe a man charged with murdering his 46-year-old girlfriend 8 parts of her body. 33-year-old Joseph Oberhansley was formally charged Monday with murder in the death of Tammy Blanton. He also was charged with an abuse of a corpse and breaking and entering. The News and Tribune and Courier-Journal reported that Joseph told Judge Vicki Carmichael on Monday that his name was Zeus Brown and that obviously you got the wrong guy. Public Defender Jeffrey Stonebreaker was appointed to represent Oberhansley. A message seeking comment was left for Stonebreaker on Monday by the Associated Press. According to a probable cause affidavit, Oberhansley told police he ate a portion of her brain, her heart, and part of a lung. Wow. Wow. That's pretty wild stuff, you know? I mean, this isn't... People's been doing crazy things for, since the beginning of time. But here in the United States, we typically don't have behavior like this. This is a little bizarre. And the only time you run into stuff like this is in like a serial type of situation, not domestic abuse or domestic dinner. I don't even know what to call it. I know that was sick and that was disgusting and uncalled for, but what do you call that? That's... wow. So anyway, the next story don't get a whole lot better. Dinner time. A man accused of cooking ex's dog and feeding it to her. I'm not kidding. I'll let them tell the story.
Burn in hell, expletive. I hate you so much it hurts. Stay away from me. I want nothing to do with you. F off. Signed with a smiley face. A note allegedly written at the hands of Ryan Wattenpaw. Accompanying it, the severed paws of this Pomeranian named Bear.
You know, this is extremely strange.
Sergeant Todd Kogel describes the case.
Unusual, nothing that we had seen before.
And the nightmare gets worse. Back in early August, Bear went missing after the victim, a Reading woman, and Wattenpaw got in an argument. Police saying one of the many in the couple's turbulent relationship. But the first week of September, there was a brief reconciliation between the two. Wattenpaw cooked the victim a meal. That included meat. Then, on September 7th, he allegedly sent a text message to the victim. Reading in part, "How's your dog taste? I thought it was better with barbecue and those Hawaiian buns. The smile on my face when you read this, priceless." The menacing text continued until Tuesday, when Wattenpaw allegedly left Bear's paws on the victim's doorstep.
It was just a pressure cooker or a loaded spring ready to snap. This relationship was very tumultuous and toxic.
Wattenpaw was arrested Thursday near his home in Palisadro. Police say he admitted to sending the text messages and leaving the paws at the victim's home, but he denied killing or cooking the dog.
I mean, really, what is wrong with people? And I'm not laughing. I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, it's, wow, you know, it's not normal. This is not typical human behavior. I want to know if, first of all, I want to know toxicology results. That's a given. But what I really want to know is whether or not these two men were taking SSRIs, or if they just quit taking SSRIs or just started taking SSRIs. I want to know that. Because there is an absurd link between bizarre behavior and SSRIs. It's a disturbing connection between the two, and all kinds of crazy things are happening. So, for the next story, I'll be giving an announcement of something that's going to happen here real soon, as far as I'm concerned, personally, and I will be. We're not going to fill the news show with ads or anything like that, but I will have probably a little intermission during the middle of the news in the future once I get this all set up, and I will be advertised for electronic cigarettes. Well, not the devices themselves, but for those that don't know me, I've made juice, or the liquid that goes in electronic cigarettes, for quite some time, and I'm working on getting set up to sell juice again. So anyway, let's read a story about electronic cigarettes, and let's hope that all these federal regulations and stuff that they would like to put in place, let's hope that doesn't happen. E-cigarette industry prepares for new federal rules. The rapid growth of e-cigarette stores in the St. Louis area and throughout the country might be about to hit a bump. The federal government is considering regulations for the industry. It could have sales of $10 billion by 2017, which is why they really want involved in it, according to Wells Fargo Securities. That has many entrepreneurs who make their living in the burgeoning sector concerned about its future. Jim Buchanan, the founder of SmokeSmart, LLC, which operates 3 stores in the St. Louis area, the first location opened a few years ago. But Buchanan kept his full-time job as a district manager for an auto parts retailer. Within 3 months, he left that position to keep up with an expanding customer base that reaches from 18 to 80-year-olds. We believe in how it changes people's lives. We literally had customers coming in crying and thanking us. They've never been able to get away from traditional cigarettes, said Buchanan. He has scaled back some of his growth plans due to the uncertainty of the pending U.S. Food and Drug Administration regulations. Those regulations are expected to include a requirement to include health warnings. I'm good with that. Age and identification restrictions to prevent underage sales. I'm good with that. A prohibition on vending machine sales unless they are in areas where minors are not allowed. And I'm good with that, too. It is nicotine. It is a drug. You can get juice with no nicotine in it, and I really don't know what to say. I don't know why that this is a device for quitting smoking, and I may upset some of the crowd out there that's in the vaping industry, but I use an electronic cigarette. I'm using it to quit smoking. So come on, let's use it for what it's used for, not so that we can walk around being personal fog machines and annoying people, because that's a lot of what goes on. Maybe I'll talk about that a little more in a moment. Manufacturers will also have to register with the FDA. Now, I'm not big on that. Report ingredient listings. I'm fine with that. Only market new products after federal review. I am not good with that. Only make claims of reduced health risk if the FDA determines there's enough supporting scientific evidence. No, I'm not good with that because, wow. They keep trying to make these horrible claims about electronic cigarettes that just aren't true. And they keep trying to make them and make them and make them. So if they get the power to make a determination because of just what they say, well, look at everything else. Hey, can you really believe something like freaking saccharin? How does that even possibly get FDA approved? I don't get it. I do not get it. Mercury in vaccines, formaldehyde in vaccines, aluminum, heavy metals of different kinds, including aluminum. How do these things get approved? And then yet, something that is proven to help save people's lives, something that is proven to start helping them immediately after they use it and allow them to get away from tobacco. No, that's not okay. It's okay if we say it's okay to poison you, but it's not okay to just be able to freely and easily take steps, to do it, to get better. And this might harm the do-it-yourself people, because there's people out there that make juice themselves, and this may be, these regulations could be a harm to those people. Because it's nice. I haven't had bought-in juice in I don't know how long. I make all my own juice. I have an interest to try a few brands, a few flavors, but for the most part, I make my own. I've got the stuff. Why not do it? So, but I'm waiting on bottles and I'm waiting on labels and good stuff like that, and waiting on supplies, and then I'll make a further announcement as to what's going on. So it'll be sold under the name of Survival Smokes. So, and there's a Facebook page. So if you want to go check it out. The Facebook page at this point is more geared towards linking survivalists and preppers up with the vaping community, because I believe that it's an important connection to be able to make. It's a smart thing to have for bartering. It takes up much less room. It's easier to, if you thought about storing 2 years of cigarettes, right, you're going to have a big room just filled with cartons, right? Well, I was a heavy smoker, and the cost of that would be just absolutely astronomical. But you could put, and I'm not kidding here, you could put 2 years of vaping supplies to vape with, and something the size of, say, that boots, a pair of boots would come in, a shoebox, a boot shoebox, so to speak, a little bit bigger than just a regular tennis shoebox. But you could easily fit 2 to 3 years of supplies in that one small box. So, that makes a large difference. Plus, you could carry more, like in a bug-out bag type of situation. You could actually carry the ingredients and some of your favorite flavorings and the supplies that you need, and you would have not indefinite, of course, but you would have a rather lengthy, and it doesn't take long to make your own juice. So there again, you could have pre-juice made up and have a few decent sized bottles in your bug out bag. That would probably be a smarter route. But everything, it's compact, it's easy to carry. If you had a small solar charger or something like that to recharge batteries with, you would be good to go. So it's a wonderful prepping and survival investment. And I'm not trying to sell something or make a sales pitch or anything like that. This is what I felt from when I first got into it over 3 years ago. That was my first thought, was that would be great in a survival prepper situation. And if you're in a position to where you can order supplies, where you can order a bunch of batteries, a bunch of what they call mods, and just the different supplies involved, if you could order that stuff, in a bulk amount, and learn how to make juice, for instance, just think of the amount of bartering you could do, because you could provide nicotine to those, to other people, and it was, if you invest in it now, it's absolutely pennies, if not even less than pennies on the dollar, of what you would take in a in a SHTF situation, because there's not going to be gas stations or tobacco stores or what. I mean, the supply of cigarettes, the nicotine supply is going to be done. So if you could provide that, and of course we all know it's not that awful hard to build a still, so I mean, you would have alcohol, you would have nicotine, yeah, sure, so you might be like a bar, but what's it matter? You could get anything that you needed. You could get anything you needed with just such a tiny investment. So it's something to think about. I will probably, someday I'll probably do a show e-cigarette related. If people want me to, I could show you around them a little bit. A lot of people just see the little bitty ones, about cigarette-sized ones you can buy at Walmart or gas stations, or those aren't even worth a few bucks. I mean, so yeah, it's kind of one of those things to where you have to step up and buy decent devices before you really understand the capability and the blessing that these are. But anyway, this is not a commercial. I wanted to speak on that. Let me play this file here. It's 3 minutes and 40 seconds.
It's a technology that started in China and in the last few years has spread quickly throughout the U.S., causing federal regulators to play catch-up and sparking the entrepreneurial spirit in many.
When you push the button on the battery, it sends the charge up into the coil, turns on the coil, heats up the liquid that's on that wicking material, and turns it into vapor. And when you fire the device, you'll hear a little bit of a hissing noise. And that's just, basically it's boiling that liquid off the wicking material.
That is Smoke Smart founder Jim Buchanan describing the basic vaporizing technology powering e-cigarettes. His company recently opened a location in Valley Park. Buchanan started a few years ago with one store while keeping his job as a district manager for an auto parts retailer. Within 3 months, he left that position to keep up with the expanding customer base that he says reaches from 18 to 80.
We believe in how it changes people's lives. We've literally had customers coming in crying and thanking us. They've never been able to get away from the traditional cigarettes. I've had customers that have been on oxygen. They start using this device and they're no longer on oxygen.
Even though business is booming, Buchanan has scaled back growth plans due to uncertainty over the pending federal rules. Also, the debate on the potential health impact continues to be played out. The American Heart Association says e-cigarettes can keep smokers hooked on nicotine and target young people. Chris Sherwin is the association's director of state and local tobacco policy.
There are thousands of different flavors like bubblegum and cotton candy and fruit flavors. It's very clear that they're being marketed to children.
He says the association is calling for marketing restrictions similar to those in place for combustible cigarettes. Sherwin also says there is not enough scientific evidence to support claims that devices help people give up traditional smokes.
There's a little bit of research showing there might be some effectiveness, but those research studies were not very large at all. And so we cannot say that these products are effective. And there's a lot of concern that people may continue to smoke while also using what we call dual use.
But Buchanan says he's proof that they help people kick the tobacco habit.
I was skeptical whether it would work or not. And when we started using them, we had no issues with having a desire to smoke a regular cigarette.
Creve Coeur area school chef A.J. Mole is also a believer.
I was an accidental quitter. O'Fallon, Missouri, 3 years ago, went smoke-free. And after work, I enjoy going to a pub smoking, having a couple beers, and O'Fallon said no more cigarettes.
Mole, who heads media relations for Bi-State Regional Advocates for Vaping Education, a St. Louis-based group designed to promote the industry, points to the organization's numbers, which suggest a negative economic impact if the FDA's guidelines are implemented in their current form.
Countrywide in the U.S., we're looking at 15,000 small to medium-sized businesses being shut down. Here in St. Louis, you're looking at $600,000 in lost wages just for the employees, not even the employer.
Mole adds the organization is not opposed to what it describes as rational regulations, including not selling to minors and detailed labeling. The FDA says it can't speculate on when the final rules will be implemented. Most observers believe it will take 12 to 18 months, longer if the issue gets tied up in court. I'm Wayne Pratt, St. Louis Public Radio.
Yeah, see, I mean, they keep spewing the same nonsense. You know, we don't know, there's not any proof that they even have any effectiveness. Yet, look at how fast the industry is growing. So you tell me, if electronic cigarettes did not work, then why is the industry just absolutely exploding? You know, why is it that so many people, if you question it, find one of these local retailers, go in there, talk to the owner or the manager, if you would question this, and then go in and talk to some of the customers and ask them their stories. It is amazing. It is amazing what you will hear. The people that will say, you know, that they can't believe that this weird-looking device, again, you know, the little cheap cigarette size ones you get, you know, gas stations, Walmart, some tobacco shops or whatever, you know. Stay away from those. Get something, you know, pay a little more money and get something worth having and something that will last. Not just battery consumption time, but will last durability-wise, you know, over time. But yeah, it's an excellent market, excellent way to quit smoking. And as I pointed out, excellent for SHTF situation, whether it would be bartering or getting by yourself. So the last article I'm going to do here has got a video of Beck. He warns Americans not to underestimate the Ebola threat. And this is from, there's a link in there, the Saving the Truth movement. And I'll just play the video and then comment on it from there. So, but yeah, interesting. So let's see what Beck has to say about Ebola.
However, the president is expected to declare war tomorrow on Ebola. What's our plan on that? I mean, we're sending advisors over. The deadly virus is spreading like wildfire in West Africa, and apparently it mutates each time it's transferred, which sounds wonderful. It could be spreading as fast as 20,000 new cases every single month, according to the World Health Organization. Hey, let's all get onto an airplane. As of September 12th, 4,784 people were infected with Ebola, and just 2,400 of them have died. That's the reported total. The WHO believes the actual number is much, much higher than that. The outbreak has been particularly bad in Liberia, where over 1,000 people have died and patients are turned away due to lack of hospital beds. They reportedly are short thousands of beds. People have no place to go. Tomorrow, the president is expected to lay out a 4-point plan to help stop Ebola from spreading. One of the points is to, you ready? To build competence in the West African region's public health system. We're the ones who built this. I mean, we spent $474 million for a website that doesn't work. So I'm not really sure we're up to the task of building competence. But one of the other details is we plan to spend $88 million in aid, and we're going to send them a 25-bed field hospital. Now, I haven't had Common Core math lately, kids, so I'm a little fuzzy and rusty on this whole thing, but I do believe that 25 is smaller than the thousands of beds that are needed. So it's spreading like crazy, but that's not the worst of it. Now experts are worried that the virus could mutate and become a respiratory virus. That is really... Got it? In other words, you walk by somebody who coughs or sneezes, you're on an airplane and somebody says, oh, shit, and they have Ebola, you now can become infected. It's going to get good. In case you're not picking up what I'm laying down, I'm not exactly feeling confident. Now, maybe it's just me, but I've seen the movies. It doesn't usually end well. It ends with someone like Dustin Hoffman and Rene Russo in hazmat suits. We've got healthcare.gov. I don't think it's going to be... I mean, what could possibly go wrong? We've already brought 2 missionaries who contracted Ebola in Liberia back into the country. They've been discharged from the hospital, thank goodness. But then there is this weird twist that nobody seems to be talking to. We got a tip from one of our readers on theblaze.com. You don't want to see the transcripts of the interviews that we have done in the last 24 hours because they'll make your head pop. Due to an extreme shortage of prison guards in Texas, prisons are so desperate for employees that they started looking outside of the country to hire prisoner guards. Now, where are they from? Well, there's a substantial number of prison guards from Mexico and Nigeria. Let's take these one at a time. Mexico? Really? Not exactly known for their robust prison management in Mexico. Prison corruption come to mind? Yes. Now, the only thing we know about Nigeria is that, well, they have a Nigerian prince who is always scamming people for money. But that's not what I'm talking about. The other thing we know is Ebola is breaking out. So we're hiring people from Nigeria who are going back and forth to their country, right? Doesn't really seem like a good policy for a number of reasons. And again, what pops out is Ebola. Call me crazy, but letting Nigerians roam freely in and out of our country as they work as correctional officers in prisons, transportation, and food service might seem like something we should look into. You know, we should probably think, we may want to call that off for a minute. So while I find it a bit ironic that the president won't call dropping bombs on terrorist war, and while I don't think the federal government is actually up to the task, I do think this should have our full attention. But maybe that's just me.
You may not like Glenn Beck. I don't particularly love any one particular, I just, when they speak the truth, they speak truth. When they speak nonsense, they speak nonsense. But he was speaking truth there. That was a moment of truth, and that was a topic that should be concerned for us. That's the news I have for you tonight. Again, I apologize for not being present last night. I will do my best to not be interrupted in the future. Anyway, I hope you all have a good evening. God bless you. May He walk with you, be one with your spirit. I love you all. Have a good night.